We are live.
Yeah,
Looking live.
Yeah, we
Are we alive?
Kind of.
I saw you in the gym today,
Oh.
man. I had my tickets to the gun show. Niz was going sleeveless, and it was like boom, boom.
Yeah, I got to get in there. You know, I tried.
You got to get in there. You're in there 5 days a week. I know you. You're in
4
there.
to 5, at least some sort of. I mix it up.
He's doing all. No, you don't mix it up. Guns
It's
like
all
that. It's all upper body.
What are you
and
trying to
arms.
say? No leg day?
Yeah, that's right. You skip leg day on a routine basis, brother. I guarantee it.
The ratio to arm and leg day is a little lopsided, but I do still sprinkle in some leg day.
I know. I get on the sled. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't squat anymore. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get too old for that stuff. But I get on the sled.
Yeah, most of my leg stuff is probably more the cardio variety, you know,
Yeah.
the elliptical,
Yeah.
ride a bike and stuff. Unfortunately, the riding the bike is pretty much done now.
Is it
I mean,
outdoors? You mean?
Outdoors,
Or just,
I mean,
I thought you meant like
Yeah,
the
no,
riding
outdoors.
bike or whatever. Okay.
no, back in the day, I used to run quite a bit, but
Yeah.
I got a pretty bad meniscus.
Oh.
I had the MRI done on there.
I
Like,
still run a fair amount.
it's like
Then I put the treadmill on about 15 degrees and do the uphill climb, and sweat it out a little bit.
enough about us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was trying to delay the inevitable.
I know, right? We're here to talk Packers, obviously. Packers fall to the Titans, as we say on the bottom there. If you have a question or a comment, positive or negative,
Cries
fire
of
away.
outrage, protest.
Fire away.
Yeah.
That was tough last night.
Yeah. It was a winnable game too.
It was, especially that first half. You just kind of, even before the last final few possessions, we had that good third quarter drive that ended up over. What did we? We didn't punt. We 4-0 or
Right.
whatever on the,
Right.
and then we
Right.
scored on the next possession.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
moving the ball, so I did
Moving
start
the
to feel
ball.
very, very good about
Absolutely.
things. And then when the defense finally got a few stops, then all of a sudden we couldn't move the ball, couldn't put 2 and 2.
I would argue that, okay, the defense hasn't always been great this year or whatever, but there were at least twice where either the offense went 3 and out or the offense put the defense in a bad position.
Yes.
A couple of times at least.
It was rough. The game plan obviously was to go all in on stopping Derrick Henry, daring Tannehill to beat us, and he sure did, didn't he?
Yeah. And dare I say, he was played better last night. He was a better quarterback.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the questions right now, Niz, are 3rd and 3, 4th and 3. Why are you taking shots 20, 30 yards downfield? And once again, you just got to shake your head. You look at some of the imbalance. I know that the Titans are the #1 team in the league in run defense.
Yes.
Okay. So that, let's go into it with that, only allowing about 85 yards per carry. But what was it again last night? Like 38 pass attempts to 19 or 20 runs. Once again, like you make the commitment to the run against the Cowboys, and maybe for a week or two, and then you go right back to your old ways.
Right.
And it's maddeningly inconsistent. And you are what your record at this point says you are, which is an inconsistent team. You offensively, you haven't been great all year, and you barely have a moment here, moment there, whatever. And then, as I mentioned, there were times where the offense hung the defense out to dry. I'm not going to completely let them off the hook, but I would say that they've had moments where they've been good, but not elite or great. I have a great, good, average, poor scale. So good, okay, they're good, but yeah, there are times where the offense actually scores, and then the defense allows like 10-minute drive where they didn't score, but still a 10-minute drive where it's just marching it down the field. And then special teams, we'd be talking more about the blocked extra point, and once again, special teams issues. If that was more of an issue.
Yeah. One positive of special teams, I do feel like what was it? Who's 25? Dixon?
Yeah. Keyshawn Nixon. Keyshawn Nixon. He's got a little wiggle in the hip.
He does. It seemed like a level of confidence that we didn't have in Amari, and Amari didn't have it himself.
Right.
I felt like he did a good job back there. He had a really missed opportunity in the 3rd or 4th quarter when we got the ball on a punt, and he brought us to their 45-yard line, and we did nothing with it. That was. Let's get to, I think, one of the most glaring things, and we can move on from it. Were those flat out, in your opinion, missed throws by Rodgers, A, or B, miscommunication with receiver, or C, I don't want to say the receivers gave up on it, But I didn't necessarily see I'm giving all out trying to catch
or
this
he
ball.
was winging it up as well, because that was a theme last night as well. Is okay, is he just winging it up, saying okay, fine, whatever with the receivers? I'm going to go more A and B, honestly. There is definitely a level of frustration that locker room is, and I was in there last night, and you saw like when Christian Watson got done, didn't really talk to anybody, head down, quiet, walked out of the locker room. A lot of guys just, very somber. I think they kind of know that what their fate is,
right.
And now they have no margin for error, and you don't expect them to run the table or anything like that. I would say that it's both miscommunication, but like there are certain receivers, and we kind of know who they are, Sammy Watkins or whatever, that have not gotten on the same page with Aaron Rodgers at all.
Right.
Clearly, at least things, if you want to look at one small ray of hope, at least things between Aaron Rodgers and Christian Watson are trending in a positive direction.
Yes.
He only catches 4 or 5 balls per game.
But they're big plays.
And
he's obviously
first
looking
time
for him now.
He's looking for him first time since Max McGee, all the way back in 1954. The rookie receiver has had multiple touchdown games back to back, and that's, to me, when you're looking at Packers history and historic things like that, that's significant. Like somebody had, I was on iHeartRadio earlier today, Niz 97.3 the game, and they said who was the more impactful rookie if you could pick one, Christian Watson or Quay Walker. I lean Watson because I'm like, okay, you do historic stuff like that, but I'm like, that's a good question because Quay was a close second, just flying around, and Derrick Henry only had. If you look at the stats and go, Derrick Henry only had 3.1 yards per carry, and the Titans had like 2.8, 2.9 for the game. And you kind of look at third down conversions, and the Packers actually did fairly well in that department. You'd be like, well, yeah, they should have either been in this game even more, or they should have won this game, or whatever. But it was like, the Titans weren't getting huge chunks of yards.
No, but they were getting just enough.
And then they were converting third downs.
Yeah, so
like stopping them.
It was probably the most effective 3-yard per carry performance Derrick Henry could have. He was setting them up every time for a makeable third down.
And then, which in turn, in the third quarter, led to that throw where they faked everybody out because, okay, they're just selling out to stop him. And it's like, okay, well, I think Mike Vrabel is a smart coach.
Yes.
I think overall they have a pretty good coaching staff, although offensive coordinator getting in some trouble with Dre. I don't know if you
heard that.
Can't be doing that.
Is that the flight home?
Yeah, and sure, it's a chartered flight, but it's like, holy smokes, dude. I mean, I know he was under pressure because the offense wasn't doing quite what they wanted him to, but still, you can't be doing that.
Yeah, if you guys didn't hear one of the assistant coaches of Titans,
offensive
coordinator, he arrested on DUI in Tennessee. So whether it's a shorter flight, so then maybe there was a couple cocktails too in the locker room.
Sure.
But maybe the airplane.
Usually it's more like on the
plane on the way home.
Yeah.
And if you do that, fine. But then have someone come pick you up or bring you home.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Too high profile to be doing that.
But I do think that Mike Vrabel's a really good coach, that those guys played hard and play for him. Yeah. And they once they saw what was going on, they did a good job.
So back to the question. Yeah. You think a
lot of those miscommunication and then
there were physical throws.
Okay, it is rare. I mean, maybe that's the blessing that Aaron Rodgers has given us, is he's so accurate for so many years. But clearly, he just was not that accurate. Right. Especially when the chips were down in the third and fourth quarter, he was not that accurate.
And it wasn't especially when we're used to him, making that MVP thread the needle throw. Mm-hmm. These were, he's got a pocket around him, time.
Yeah. And he's throwing it in the dirt.
And
or he's throwing it over somebody's head.
Or 5 yards out of reach.
Yes.
And it was like, what's going on here?
Right.
And then the miscommunication part, I'm thinking of a play where I think it was we really needed to convert it again. And Lazard, I don't know if he just didn't run through the route or wasn't expecting it, kind of sideline. One of those, let's get 3 yards. Yeah. And instead we threw it up for grabs, and Lazard doesn't.
That I don't get half the time. Is if something was blatantly wide open and you felt like you could take advantage of it, maybe. But when have they been that team this year?
Right. Yeah.
Not really at all.
All right. So obviously that wasn't good with Rodgers. The defense had a couple stops, but ultimately you and I could have gotten open a few times as receivers. Those were, and I hate to be that fan or whatever, but they were wide open.
Yeah.
Whether good play calling, selling out on the run.
Yeah.
It really looked like Tannehill.
A couple guys they missed, and eventually it wears away at your talent. Is okay, Rashawn Gary. I mean, clearly he is a difference-making defender and getting after the quarterback. And as well as Quay Walker played, I was sitting there part of the game going, Devondre Campbell, this is his type of game. He gets lathered up to play a running back like that in Derrick Henry, and he would make a difference.
Was it Quay Walker who got another big play in the second half? I think it was a third down conversion for the Titans where he went up the middle and he got held blatantly. Did you see that hold?
He did.
Yeah.
He did. And maybe it's just the whole rookie. I know this drives people nuts that, some people feel a penalty is a penalty, but sometimes it's the rookie respect thing. Like the rookie's probably not going to get the
penalty.
But he clearly
got held. Yeah. And it was one of those where at first when I watched it, I thought, okay, maybe it looked worse than it was. But then I went back and watched it again. I was like, he got held. Yeah. And it was a big play. It was a big conversion on their part. One of those that a lot of different things can go differently in a game.
Right.
That was one that definitely didn't go with the Packers there. Trying to find any bright spot here. I think obviously Christian Watson is able to separate and get open and make a big play.
Yeah.
So that's promising.
And I know people are concerned about his injury history, Niz, but I'm of the opinion, and maybe I'm more positive and optimistic than most. A year in the offseason conditioning program and weight room for him is going to do him wonders, and he's going to be even better next year. Okay, rookie year, a lot of things can go right and wrong and in between and whatever. I'm not. Yeah, I mean, people are saying, oh, he's this, he's that, whatever. I just think he needs to add probably 10, 15 pounds more muscle.
And he's at the age that he can do that.
He can do that.
I mean, he's like 22 or something like that.
And he's a taller, thinner guy.
Yeah, so, that's going to be I hate to compare Giannis or whatever, but I mean, because obviously he's a freak of nature.
Right.
Think about how
Christian Watson does have ridiculous athleticism.
That's the type of body that we're talking here. A little smaller scale of just like pure shredded stick,
long arms,
who has the room to bulk up.
Correct.
And I think we'll probably naturally see that.
Yes.
Couple other things. Obviously, if you have a question or a comment, fire away. But some bright spots. One of our local teams currently doing really well in Madison.
Kettle Moraine up 24-10, third quarter, and I know Susan Kim is ecstatic about that. So we're going to talk about that coming up at 4:00 today. So in just 45 minutes, we always talk with Chuck Freeman of iHeartRadio and 97.3 The Game, and I'm telling you, he does a great job covering all the high school stuff in the state, 9:30 to 11 on their radio show. But we talk to him every Friday at 4:00, and we bring Susan in because she's so attached to the community, and she's got kids that going through the Kettle Moraine district. It's fun.
I like listening to you and Freems. Obviously, you both have local connections. You have kids that are involved with high school. So you have kids that are involved with high school sports, and listening to Chuck, very easy to see his authentic care and passion for high school sports.
He loves it. And he talks about teams that maybe small town teams that other people don't even talk about or don't even recognize or whatever. And I think that's some of these kids and family. This is their one moment in the sun.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. And then we got McWanago going tonight. Kimberly,
two powerhouses.
The perennial powerhouse. And then Catholic Memorial, a little bit of a shocker last night. No offense to Columbus, they did what they needed to do. But Catholic Memorial, arguably, in my opinion, was the best team I saw all year, and just did not, some turnovers and mistakes, uncharacteristic, and just that'll cost you.
They've had a great run.
Yeah, absolutely.
And congrats to them. Congrats to Columbus.
Yeah.
Who do you think? Obviously, Kimberly and McWanago, two really good programs. Kimberly more recently has had, I don't know how many championships are close to it.
Right. Absolutely.
But McWanago's has a great year
too. Stang has been probably the best running back I've seen this year. And what's amazing about him is arguably his best sport is lacrosse. But he's just one of these taller, longer, lean running backs. But once he gets going in open space, he gone, as they say. He gets going, and Evan Herbig's a good quarterback, and McWanago, they were number one in the state for a while, and then Kettle Moraine beat them 28-7. That Classic 8 conference, McWanago,
the best,
Kettle Moraine, and it used to be, now Catholic Memorial moved to the Parkland, but two current Classic 8 teams and a former Classic 8 team all playing for state championships.
And the others aren't really nothing to say.
You look at Waukesha West, Oconomowoc, and Muskego, and it's a gauntlet run.
All good quality teams.
Year.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that obviously prepares them to make this playoff run.
Yeah.
So speaking of playoff runs, I guess mathematically Packers still have a
6% chance.
Yeah,
if
you
can
got
believe it.
You probably
If they run the table, they'd be 10-7.
Yeah.
If they go 5-1, they'd be 9-8.
And most cases that wouldn't get you there unless all of a sudden
9-8
crazy.
maybe. 9-8 maybe. 8-9 at one point. I thought, okay, there were so many marginal teams in the NFC that maybe this would be one of those years. Remember that year where the Seahawks were 7-9 and won the NFC West, and they go down and punk out the Saints, I think in 2012 or 2010 or whatever, like when the Saints were the defending Super Bowl champs or whatever. But that doesn't happen very often.
No.
You know.
Yeah, so you got to almost run the table.
Yeah.
Or 5-1, and the schedule doesn't get, it's pretty tough road ahead. So.
Yeah, and I know you're the de facto mayor of Racine, but I talked to one of the other Racine's finest, brother Chris Maragos.
Oh, Chris Maragos.
We're getting stuff
cool.
ready for. It never ends here, as you all know. It's like a marathon without a finish line. So you got the Packers, Eagles, and he got a ring with the Philadelphia Eagles. And
yes, he did.
We catch up with Chris about not only stuff in Philly, but with the Packers, special teams. He was a special teams maven. We also talked to him about there was a guy by the name of Jim Leonard that was a walk-on. And when he was ready to go, he mentored a young receiver that switched to safety, and that was Chris Maragos. Wow. So we talked to him about his thoughts and opinions in the past and stuff like that. Cool. And we also talked to him about Brett Moss and his memories of growing up in Racine and what Brett Moss meant to him and all that stuff.
Yeah, Brett Moss, as we talked about last week, you see the championship teams in Racine Park, and then there's a picture of Brett Moss. And sad to hear that news. But Brett Moss, Maragos, a couple of those local Racine legends.
Yeah.
And
Brian Niznansky.
Yeah, I mean,
along with Bud.
Yeah, well, Bud maybe big Racine Raider, Bud Niznansky.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yeah. Anyhow, go Pack, go.
Let's go somewhere.
Yeah,
they're going somewhere.
Anyhow, good luck, high school football teams, and have a great weekend.
See you at 4.
Yep.